This is a homage beat.
Good question, and just even asking like the technical aspect. I don't know if I've said this on this podcast. Like I've always wanted to like be in the studio when someone who's like recording music because I just want to know like their thought process, and I think that's a great question to ask. Hey, what's my thought process? There's a couple reasons. I think making sure that there is some difference between the chapters because even though the chapters it highlights a known concept and then it points to an eternal truth. But depending on whatever the concept I'm dealing with, it needs a little bit more unpacked. And so the last one we did about landfill. Landfill, I think, if I'm gonna be honest, I may have stood too long on too much of the research instead of getting right to the point. But I think that's what separates that chapter from this one. You know, so this one, and not to say that there wasn't a whole lot of research. I think you just mean objective research talking more about trees. I think for the tree, it was just easier for me to make that connection because I didn't have to do so much plowing because, again, landfill, nobody really understands that. And then I had to, because it presented a really hard truth. And so I had to lay the groundwork in making people understand that, hey, trash has to be dealt with. So I had to do a little bit more digging before I jumped to the conclusion of saying man is the trash. Because we can all champion, take care of the earth, throw away your trash, take responsibility. But then when I flip it on you, and it's like, no, the Bible, reflects that you share the characteristics of trash. And so hopefully for the reader, it's kind of like an emotional roller coaster where you're like, okay, I can see, like, again, if someone doesn't come from a biblical worldview, I think they could still rock with the book because it's advocating taking care of the earth. Who's gonna be like, don't humbug, I'm not gonna take care of the earth. But then when I flip it on you and I say, no, you the trash, So it took a little bit more digging for the tree one. There's a little bit of research going in, but like I said, it's just a simple concept. I can make that jump real quick because it only took me one page to set it up and then hit you with the thing. Like I said, the landfill one or even the prostitution one, I took just a little bit of digging, just to set up the punch. But this one, you can clearly understand it. Like if you see a fruit that's not good, then clearly the tree isn't good. So I can make that connection, and then when Jesus uses it as a metaphor to talk about our actions, I can get that. Like I said, the problem comes when we start judging other people, and then who determines what's right and what's wrong. So I think that was an excellent question. I say, who determines which actions are good and which actions are bad? Because like I said, from a biblical worldview, we say sex before marriage is bad. Someone who doesn't come from a biblical worldview says, I'm going to do what I want to do because I like sex. And it's like, who's right and who's wrong? There has to be a standard of right and wrong. And so if you deny biblical worldview, then you become a law unto yourself. But we get into that a little bit further. I say the connotation of judging is generally a negative one. And I did want to ask that question. Why do you think judging has a bad connotation? Like why? Because we always say, don't judge me. This, that, and the third. And judging is always put in a negative light.
It could go back to people may feel judging may have this negative connotation just because we see it when we feel judged, we feel like someone's not accepting us or we're not being accepted as we are, or we're supposed to live up to a standard that we may not want to live up to. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, man. Like that's really what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I say this because I think so many people have a misunderstanding of judging. Because to say something tastes good or looks good is actually a judgment. But it's a good thing. So I say judging is not necessarily a bad thing. The problem is when we don't judge from an objective standard. When we judge from our own opinions and preferences, that's what happens with judging. Because as I was saying to you earlier, and again, I'm kind of jumping ahead, but if I say, yo, Jermel, you a liar, your response is going to be, well, you a liar too. so it's like we judge people for the things that we're guilty of. But I say this, though many fail to recognize a universal standard, the Bible advocates when many acknowledge a right and wrong, inherently people tend to know what's right and wrong. Though there may be some disagreement on what is right and wrong, it's acknowledged by all. And acknowledging a right and wrong, we should be cautious of judging others. But we have every right to judge ourselves. I say, generally speaking, we know ourselves better than anyone else. Therefore, we ought to judge ourselves by the same measure we judge others. If we are honest, we fail to live up to the standards we impose on others. As a result, we tend to ignore our own hypocrisy and point to others. And I say this, has there been a time where you've judged another and been guilty of the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, that's that concept of the pot calling the kettle black. I could, just looking at my life now, man, there's plenty of examples, but I mean, it happens definitely in my marriage. Like,
You gonna steal my example?
hey man, I had to. Definitely happens in my marriage, like especially when you get in an angry like, argument or something, or you talking, especially like when you think about the beginning of the month or the budget or something like that. It's a consistent thing. Like, well, you the spender, I'm the saver, thinking that my $2 or $3 little dollars every here and now again is cool.
Yeah.
Like, it ain't gonna hurt nothing. But really, I mean, I'm wrong just like she is. If she spends $100, if I spend $3, if I do it like out of the budget, I'm wrong. So you know what I'm saying. But I'm quick to judge in that way. Yeah, that's an area that I mean, definitely I do it in.
Yeah.
With yours, how you gonna use that?
No, yeah, I was gonna say, because that's what I was thinking of too. What example could I use? I'm sure just in my life there have been one, but the clearest one is within marriage, and marriage reveals that hypocrisy in your own life, where just being healthy and just wanting to take care of my body, and seeing how I'm more critical of my wife than I am of myself. But it's like, when the last time you went to the gym? When the last time you ate some vegetables? When the last time you did that? But it's like, it's so easy to be critical of someone else. And it's like, again, judging is good, but how oftentimes are we critical of ourselves? It's like so easy to be critical of someone else, but it's like, it's another thing to be critical, because we give ourselves passes. You know, we just justify our bull crap, and then call somebody else out on the same thing that we're not even doing. And you just say it, but I think it's extremely apparent in marriage. And then having to deal with that, look yourself in the mirror and just be like, man,
did I really just say that?
Exactly.
Like, I just did that yesterday when I just said that about her. So
so and it's humbling, it's sobering to realize that. But like I said, just our world, especially in social media, it's just so easy to judge someone else, and I think that's why judging has such this stigma on it, because we're not really faithful to our our own standard that we impose on somebody else, but yet we critical of somebody else, and we do the same thing.
Cause you when we saying judging, do you have like a example of that, maybe in like pop culture, how that can be seen? Like, can you think of something? I'm trying to think of something where it's like, are we talking about, I can't stand her dress, I can't stand his haircut, or are we talking about something even deeper?
The only one that I can really think of, and it's just one that gets recycled, especially in our culture, where it's kind of difficult, because I thought there was like more of a growing acceptance of those in like the LGBTQI, and I apologize if I'm butchering the acronyms, but those in that community. But now with this new current presidential administration, it seems like there becomes less and less more tolerance. But to answer your question, I think there's a huge hypocrisy, especially from the church, how we handle those in that community, where we kind of look down upon them. And it's like, so oftentimes, I hate talking about people, I'd rather talk with them, where it's like, we have all these things to say about those in that community, but how many of you have actually engaged? And I hate to say, do you have any friends? Because that's what people do with the black card. I don't have a black friend. But I think there's some truth to it, where it's like, and not just have a friend where you can just use them as a token, but have someone where you're actually invested in their lives. And it's like, we look down upon those who are homosexual or who have that orientation, but it's like, but we don't say nothing about the people who are shacking up, who are fornicating, people who are viewing pornography, the people who are, having affairs. Like, we don't judge that sexual sin as bad as the homosexual. So again, we see our hypocrisy. Not to say that we not to call it out, but again, and this is the thing I wanted to get to, because that whole chapter in chapter 7 is talking about judging.
Yeah.
And so when we get to the fruit and the tree analogy, it's going back to this idea of judging. And so judging is not necessarily bad, because, and I think I have a verse where it just talks about, it's the one where it's like, take the plank out of your own eye.
Oh yeah, I was thinking
before you judge someone else. So it's not saying that judging is, you shouldn't judge, but it says, and again, this is Matthew, the first verse, Matthew 7 verse 1. It says, judge not that you be not judged. For the judgment that you pronounce, you will be judged, and with the measure you use will be measured to you. Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log in your own? See, again, judging is good, but judge yourself first.
That's heavy, because it's like you got like you looking at the speck, like the little piece of thing, but you got like
the plank in your eye.
Got like a piece of wood.
How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye when there's a log in your own? What, you hypocrite! First, therefore, take the log out of your own eye, and then you'll see clearly to take the speck out of your brother. So it's not saying judging is wrong, but it's how should you judge. And that's the misconception that we have. Judging is not wrong, but we've got to judge against an objective standard. And an objective standard says, I got to be held to the same accountability that I'm judging you. You know, and we don't do that. And I say, in failing to acknowledge a universal right and wrong, we tend to judge others based on opinions and preferences. Though many will continue to deny the universal ethic the Bible advocates, the Bible identifies a holy and righteous God who will hold men accountable for their actions. Denying this truth automatically means one's actions are not holy and righteous. And I wanted to clarify that, because when I was reading it myself, I was like, it's one of those extreme comments that I make, because essentially I'm saying if you don't acknowledge God, there's no way that you could possibly be righteous. And again, for someone who's not a Christian could take that and be like, whoa, hold on. And the reason that I wanted to clarify that and defend that statement is essentially, if you deny any authority above you, essentially you're saying you are the standard of righteous, and that ultimately you are accountable to you. But again, that's not objective. That's subjective to you. That thus you become righteous to your own self. Then there you can say, this is right, this is wrong. But I can't determine right and wrong. A standard above me must be able to determine right and wrong. And I go on to say, now this claim is sure to anger most, because many believe themselves to be good people. And before I even go further, I say, when people say they're a good person, what are the reasons they usually give? You go up to somebody on the street and they say, hey, you ask them, are they a good person? And they say, yeah. And you say, what makes you a good person? What does someone usually say as a reason why they're a good person?
Yeah, I mean, like you're saying, like you ask them to prove it. They will probably, I get a charity, I'm respectful, go to work on time, still married.
That's a good one.
Whatever, my children, take care of my kids. Whatever, like things that are morally right to do in the American culture that we see as correct and right, which are definitely things you should do. But they shouldn't be your standard. You shouldn't idolize the fact that you're doing. And
that's kind of what I say. I say many give to charity, many are respectful, truthful, and genuinely believe they are righteous people. However, there are several problems with this. One problem is a person usually judges themselves in comparison to another. In regards to a hardened criminal, most of us look like saints. Also, in identifying ourselves as good people, we are not judging ourselves against a set standard, but again, our own personal opinion or preference. Excuse me. In judging this way, we tend to judge others more critically than we do ourselves. This is not righteous. This is not just. Therefore, there must be a universal standard that is not biased. Because we judge ourselves, again, we have rose-colored glasses on when we're judging ourselves. Because, again, in comparison, because, again, like you said, we're not judging ourselves against a set